welcome back to episode 2 of the Scissortail Podcast, the podcast by the fans for the fans of Rio OKC. We're going to focus on everything NASL and Rayo OKC related. My name is Porter Cunningham. I'm joined by my co-host Will Bowersox. Will, say hello to the people out there.
Hello to the people. Thank you for tuning back in. We had a great first week. Glad to be back. Porter, I don't know about you, but I was surprised at just how large our sponsorship checks were after just 1 week of podcasting. So
I'm about to go out and, get myself a new truck, I think, from the sponsorship checks that are rolling in.
I figured we would just give it another week and see how it went. I mean, can't hurt, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, we wanted to start this week's episode with a few corrections to last week's episode. Hopefully this won't be a too common occurrence, but it's definitely something we want to start with first and foremost today, since we might have a few people that are new to the Rayo OKC scene, new to the NASL scene. And that first correction that I have to make is last week I misspoke and said that the the playoffs were just the spring winter and fall winter of the split seasons. And that's incorrect. It's actually 4 teams. It's the spring winter and the fall winter, and they're joined in the 14 playoff with the next 2 best combined record. And in the event that one team wins the spring and the fall seasons both, the next 3 best combined records fill out that 14 playoff. And then, Will, I know you had some more information on the ownership structure of the team itself.
Yep. So I think a lot of people out there are just assuming that Rayo Vallecano of Madrid is a majority investor into the Rayo OKC enterprise, and that's not entirely true. The way that it's gone down, that Rayo Vallecano partnered with the existing team, OKC FC, and by team I just mean the brand, the club that wasn't entirely operational. They partnered together to create Rayo OKC. There is an existing OKC FC academy, youth academy, and women's professional team that exists and operate under that OKC FC title.
So I did some research on that after we found that out, and the WPSL it's referring to is the actual women's academy. It's the Women's Premier Soccer League, which is a youth soccer league for girls. So there's actually not a male academy team yet, but I know that's something that they're going to do in the future.
Perfect, yeah, and thanks for clarifying. So, it's still unknown regarding the size of the investment from Rayo Vallecano, what the terms are of the particular operating agreement. It's also understandable that information is not entirely public, but it's a minor clarification, but it's worth clarifying.
Certainly.
And then finally, Porter, 2 more things quickly to clarify. I think whether you live in Oklahoma City or whether you're just reading social media and the news, you probably know that Rayo OKC is going to be playing this year at the UConn High School Stadium. And depending on what slant you're reading, you might think that UConn is actually much farther away than it truly is. I'm just going to list off a couple of hotspots or well-known destinations in Oklahoma City, and we're going to compare and contrast how close they are relative to Taft Stadium, which is another stadium in Oklahoma City where professional soccer is played. So I'll just
that other team.
Right. So first, you're traveling from Chesapeake Arena to UConn High School. Say there's a matinee Thunder game, perhaps, and you wanted to make it a true doubleheader of a day. You could spend 17 minutes driving to UConn from Chesapeake Arena as opposed to a 12-minute drive past. Second location, Mercy Hospital. Say that your firstborn child has just been born and you want to indoctrinate them into the Rayo OKC club. You can spend 19 minutes driving to UConn High School versus 15 minutes driving to Taft. The third location is 33rd and Broadway, which is a well-known or a major intersection in Edmond. That is a 23-minute drive to UConn High School as opposed to a 15-minute drive to Taft. Let's say that you live in Moore, Oklahoma, and you just have a thirst for professional soccer. You can spend 25 minutes driving to UConn or 22 minutes driving to Taft Stadium. Let's just do one more. If let's say you just landed Will Rogers Airport and you want to hustle to make it out to the next game, you can spend 20 minutes driving to UConn versus 16 minutes to Taft.
So obviously, it is farther away, obviously, than Taft is from the city center, but it's not near as far as some people are making it out to be.
Yeah, exactly. And then I guess the last thing that I would mention is that if you want to get a 5K in, before or after the game on a field course, you can't do that at Taft, but you can do that from the UConn Stadium. There's a very legit cross-country 5K course that abuts one of the end zones at the UConn Miller Stadium. And I would know from my brief and mediocre career as a cross-country runner in high school.
Brief and mediocre. I think that could describe a lot of things about you, William.
Thank you, Porter.
So the last correction we had to make, I guess, is kind of a correction. A lot of people have been asking, is Rio OKC going to compete in the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup? And the answer we got from the club is most definitely yes. The league, the NASL, requires all of their teams to play in the Open Cup, and the team has said they will be participating this year.
Yeah. So actually, all NASL teams are required by the league to play in the Open Cup. So based on that, we know for certainty that the club will definitely be participating. Yeah, so we're just going to take a quick segue, but we wanted to go ahead and throw some clarifications out there, and we'll definitely do that every time we have some to make. So we'll be back in just a jiff.
The following segment of the Scissortail Pod is sponsored by Legends 88 FC. Legends 88, a now defunct boys select soccer club that competed during the 2001 calendar year and featured such schoolboy legends as Jake, O'Brien, Jake, and Matt, reminds you to stay hard out there and give it your all no matter what. Legends 88 FC, Legends.
All right, welcome back to episode 2 of the Scissortail Podcast. Once again, we are a fan-run podcast focusing on all things NASL and Rayo OKC related. We just got finished with our first segment of episode 2, which was some corrections from last episode, their very first episode. Now we want to get into the real meat of what we found out this week. Will, it was a really, really big week for the league and for Rayo OKC. A lot of stuff to talk about. What do you want to start with?
I think it was the biggest week in the history of the club.
I think it was as well. You could say that easily. You might say that each week from here on out might be the biggest week in the history of the club, at least up until the
Only
first.
time will tell.
Only time will tell. Let's talk about the schedule first, since that was released last week. We're on the schedule. The Rayo OKC is featured on the schedule. They announced at least one preseason game. The Dynamo, when they released their preseason schedule, let the cat out of the bag on that one. That Rayo OKC will be playing in Houston on February 17th.
Just over a month away.
And the NASL matchups are going to be carried on ESPN3, I guess, is what we're hearing. So we will definitely keep an eye out for that. And then I know there's certain other ways to watch matches in case ESPN3 doesn't come through for us on the preseason side.
Yeah, I mean, TBD, right?
Yeah.
But beyond the friendly, which will definitely be interesting and tell us a lot, talk about the kind of the meat of the regular season. Looks like our home opener is going to be Saturday, April 2nd against FC Edmonton. Don't know a lot about them, but it's probably going to be a win for Rayo.
I've heard they have real trouble with expansion teams as the first game of the season.
Yeah, there's no tape on them, so they don't know what to train for.
That's right.
I thought it was interesting. So the spring season, we'll play 5 home games, and it's a little bit backloaded. We'll get 11 of those in the fall. I was expecting more of an even split, but I don't know the thinking behind that.
If you look at the season in a whole, Will, it's kind of everyone's kind of referring to the spring season as a mini season because I think it's about half as overall the games are. There's half as many games in the spring as there are in the fall. It's just kind of a little mini season and a run up to the fall. It's funny you make the joke about not having film, but if this team is really going to be successful, if they come out of the gate playing well, having as few games as there are, they really, just from a numbers perspective, they play well in the spring season, have to win fewer games to get that best record. So we could see that there.
Potentially very premature to have that talk, but duly noted. Seeing the kind of the backloaded schedule, I was worried that because high school football is played at the Miller Stadium, I was worried about the turf being all torn up. But as it turns out, apparently since I've graduated high school, they've installed field turf. So Miller Stadium has field turf. It's got a jumbotron, always clutch, right, kiss cam. And it's actually got a larger capacity than I was thinking. It has a capacity of 6,000. Now we just got to fill it up.
Yeah, a lot to talk about at the home stand, the home side. We definitely need to have the conversation of what are they going to do with the football lines? Is this team going to play on a field with yellow 18-yard boxes and 6-yard boxes and white 5-yard football lines, or are they going to do something about that? So a lot more discussion to have on that in future episodes.
It could help with precision passing game.
That's right.
You're trying to just make a bunch of short passes. Porter, as you comb through the schedule, are there notable matches that stick out to you?
Yeah, there were a few that I picked out. The two New York Cosmos matches that are on there. Rayo OKC plays at the New York Cosmos on May 28th. And the Cosmos come to town on July 16th. Obviously, the returning champions, the Cosmos are, and also possibly the most well-known club in the NASL. Rayo OKC also plays at Miami on April 23rd and at Puerto Rico on July 23rd. So really want to see the difference between the three expansion sides and their home stadia and their home atmosphere in this first season.
Yeah, I'm going to be banking real hard on getting press passes to the Puerto Rico away game. Other than that, I would just say I think the odds of an undefeated season are pretty high. Can't really see any of these games being losable. And I think we're going to make – I think Rayo OKC is going to make a lot of history this fall.
Man. You were close. You were close to getting all the way through it without cracking it up. It's going to be really interesting. Yeah. I think all in all, the lower divisions of U.S. soccer and MLS is the same way. It's just there's not a whole lot of stability. Well, of course, the way the Premier League is this year, you could say that in any league. It's just going to be really interesting to see the kind of team that we field for this first season.
Yeah, speaking of, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll actually talk about some of the signings that have been made in the last week and see if we can get a little bit step closer to actually fielding a team. Hang with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to episode 2 of the Scissortail Podcast, the podcast by the fans, for the fans of Rio OKC. We're just getting ready to get into the first 3 player signings ever in the history of the team. And so let's dive right into that, Will. Who do you want to talk about first?
Yeah, the name that sticks out to me is Sebastian Velasquez. Not surprisingly now, he was born in 91, got a couple years on him. He's originally from Colombia, has spent a lot of time playing professionally here in the States though, played for Rayo Salt Lake as well as New York City FC. Fun fact, there's a lot of well-known names on that roster, NYC FC, and the NYC FC supporters group actually named him their player of the year for the 2015 season, so the season that just concluded. It's a pretty crowded midfield, so I think that bodes well that he earned that accolade. He's known as a technical and creative attacking player, so it should be fun to watch him play. And I'm sure the adjustment from life in New York City to Oklahoma City is going along quite smoothly for him. So we'll have to ask him about that if we ever get the chance.
Yeah, I actually had a chance to start watching his highlight reel that was 30 minutes long, and I ended up, unfortunately, not being able to watch all of it, but he has definitely some good creative play even at the MLS level. So we'll see what he brings to the table here. My personal favorite of the 3 so far is Pekka, the Brazilian defensive midfielder, full name Wellington de Jorge Estanislao Peacart, better known as Pekka. He was born in 89, so he's an 80s baby, but we've still got a little bit of time on him, I should say. He played for the Fort Lauderdale Strikers last year, but he did spend the season before last, I believe, at Real Salt Lake, or at least part of that season. Partnered up with Sebastian there in the midfield. That's a pretty strong start to a midfield there.
Yeah, definitely. He also came up through the Brazilian club ranks and got loaned around before making it to the MLS. Third player is a guy named Rashawn McKenzie. He's a little bit older, born in 86. From Illinois. Spent all of his time playing professionally here in the U.S., played his college ball at Michigan State, won a Big Ten regular season championship, and also as a youth spent time in the USL Premier Development League. Spent some time playing for the Timbers and also Real Salt Lake, although he did not overlap with Pekka or Sebastian. He last played for the Atlanta Silverbacks, and I imagine would still be playing for them if it weren't for the unfortunate news that came out this week as well, which we'll talk about later. 3 good signings, 2 midfielders, 1 defender. Porter, what are your takeaways from the 3 announcements? Surely there's some strategy in the fact that there are first 3.
Just from combing through our fellow podcasters and what they were commenting on the first 3 signings, it seems pretty solid. These 3 players all have MLS experience. They're all 3 veterans of the NASL, veterans of the MLS. I think they'll be a strong backbone of the team, both on the field. I'm assuming they'll line up in the midfield there and also in the locker room. So I think it's a really good combination of leadership and experience to start out with.
My takeaway is first going to make a gut check here. But Wellington is my boy. Porter, why don't you read his full name one more time for us?
All right, I could be saying this wrong, but this is how I would pronounce it. Wellington de Jorge Estanislao Peacart.
That is exactly what I'm going to yell every time he scores a goal for the Fighting Rays this season.
I feel like there could be a really good chant come out of that somehow.
We just got to figure out the rhyme scheme. For me, what I'm looking for, and this is not exactly a hot take, but obviously there are more signings coming down the pipeline. So the question is, is the caliber of future signings going to be equal to or just a little bit less than these three? Or will we be verging into the realm of unknowns and roster filler? I'm going to keep my eye on that balance and that ratio as the rest of the team gets filled out. So the message boards, if you put any stock in those, were mentioning rumors that some of the players from the Energy were looking to move over to the NASL team. So I'll be very curious to see if any of that is true.
The strong rumor is that Brian Byers of Putnam City fame will be signing with Rio OKC, and he was a member of Energy FC, I believe, the season before last.
Duly noted. So definitely going to keep our eye on that.
And one more note on that real quickly. I did want to point out that the NASL only allows 7 foreign players per roster. So 2 of those players are taken up already with the first 3 signings.
2 down, 5 to go.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that wraps up segment 2. We'll be back with segment 3, our free talk segment, talk about our hot sport takes. Stay with us. We'll be back.
Welcome back to episode 2 of the Scissortail Podcast. We are on our final segment of the episode, our free talk segment, and we actually do have a sponsor for this segment. This segment is sponsored by Cigar Party. This is a product that's for all of those golfers out there, good, bad, ugly, otherwise, who like to enjoy a smoke on the course. Be it a cigar, a vape, a cigarette. If you're out there playing golf and you smoke cigars like I do, you're always looking for a spot to set your cigar down, whether it's on the floor of the cart or on the grass or on the tee marker, sometimes laying it on the flagstick. That's frowned upon a little bit. Well, the Cigar Party is here to solve all those problems for you. If you visit cigarparty.com, that's CIGARPARTEE.com, Cigar Party, you'll see plenty of pictures about the product. It's a product that's designed to hold your cigar, everything from a cigarette all the way up to a 60 ring gauge cigar. Keep it up off the ground, and it's a product that's going to last. So go check it out. They're helping us out, and we want to help them out too. All right, let's get right into our free talk. Big week for the NASL this week. As we already talked about, player signings, the schedule was released, and it seems like ages ago, Will, but just last week, we actually lost 2 teams in the NASL. The league came out and announced that the Atlanta Silverback will no longer be participating in the league. Last year, they were looking for new ownership, and that didn't come to fruition, so they'll be out of the league this year. And also, they confirmed last week that the San Antonio Scorpions would also not be playing in the league this year. So gain 3 teams, lose 2 teams. Really kind of
That's rough.
A sad time for the league. And I think, Will, you and I both have feelings about why this is happening. It's no secret that Atlanta United is supposed to come along in the MLS next season for Atlanta, and San Antonio starting a USL team that they hope to monetize into an MLS franchise. And we have a lot of thoughts about...
Or at least partner with an MLS franchise, we should say.
Yeah, exactly. Become somebody's second-tier team or whatever they want to call it. But we have a lot of thoughts about promotion and relegation in American soccer, and that's something that we just don't feel like is worthy of just one free talk segment. So sometime in the future we'll discuss that. But for now, we've got some other hot takes we want to throw out there. So, Will, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So I'm not going to lie, I got my rile up a little bit the last couple of days doing some reading and research. I think we should backtrack a little bit to last week's segment and talk about the fact that there are some people dogging on the Rayo OKC logo, if not the fact that Rayo Vallecano is anti-Rayo OKC in the first place. At least their supporters are. So I just have a couple of, responses or thoughts or quick bullet points. But for starters, there's a ton of cross-pollination in soccer branding, and I guess branding is a term I use loosely. Tons of clubs have taken bits and pieces from other clubs, and it's not hard to find if you just do quick Googling it. Lots of well-known clubs have done it, including Rayo Vallecano. Their kit was inspired by River Plates of Argentina, so that red stripe that's not unique to Rayo Vallecano, that was taken from another club. So fair play. It's a little bit, I think, misleading to have it be such a big deal. Secondly, I think there are way worse logos in sports, in U.S. soccer, and dare I say, even in the NASL itself. If you look closely, I mean, obviously it's all subjective, right? But some atrocious badge, kind of ridiculous. If you're hanging your hat on that, I guess the ownership group is doing pretty well. Finally, last week we talked about a little bit the dissent from the Rayo Vallecano supporters being anti-Rayo OKC, and perhaps for good reason, right? They're locked into a relegation battle, and they've had some financial instability. I saw some pictures earlier of Rayo fans marching with Energy FC flag through the streets of Madrid, which is truly comical for several reasons. I guess I have a couple of response points to that. So one, maybe people are overestimating the extent of the involvement. I mean, like we talked about earlier, as we clarified, they're not a majority owner. There's a partnership, which we don't know the details of. So they may not be doing that much. But secondly, I find it a little bit hypocritical of Rayo Vallecano supporters to be dogging a partnership like this. So in the 1949 and 1951 seasons, or I should say the 1949 and 1950, the 1951 and 1952 seasons, and back-to-back seasons, Rayo entered into financial or I should say mutual aid partnerships, to word it appropriately, with both Atletico de Madrid and Real Madrid in back-to-back seasons. So those are their two other Madrid-based clubs, and ostensibly they're rivals. And in fact, the Real Madrid relationship, there was some financial aid through partnerships with feeder clubs. I just find it a little bit hypocritical that they would be so anti-becoming the benefactor, in their eyes at least, of a partnership, when in the past they've enjoyed the benefit of being in partnerships with larger clubs themselves. So I know I'm rambling on here, but...
Well, I think I'll jump in a little bit and add on to that, because I think what you're saying is that the Rayo Vallecano supporters who are truly upset over this business decision by their ownership group need to look inwards a little bit and look at their own club's history before making accusations. But I would also submit that a few things. Even if the Rayo Vallecano ownership hadn't agreed to this partnership with a club in Oklahoma, on the other side of the world, they'd still be in the relegation zone. There's nothing that they did there to keep them from potentially being relegated. And not only that, but if you look at the larger scope of why are they doing this, I saw one thing that said how many people in the city of Oklahoma City are going to be able to name, what was a half dozen La Liga sides or whatever. Well, I guarantee you that whatever that number was, it's more now than it was before Rayo Vallecano partnered with Oklahoma City FC. So they're getting their desired result out of it. The Rayo Vallecano's brand is going to grow.
Yeah, not to mention, if you read the press releases, whether or not they had partnered with Rayo OKC, or should I say OKC FC, they would still have figured out some way to partner with a U.S.-based entity. Their strategic plan wasn't per se, let's go to Oklahoma City. This was just the opportunity that presented itself to them. Two more quick bits for me. People are dogging the expansion move, but in all of this, and actually this has been pretty well covered, I just think it's a little bit ludicrous that David Beckham is trying to start an MLS team in Miami named after himself.
Beckham United.
Miami Beckham United. I mean, that is hilarious to me that is happening. I mean, I just find that to be ludicrous and hilarious at the same time. Finally, I know I'm rambling here. This is a bunch of hot sports opinions I'm throwing down. We're talking about expanding too fast or too slow. The USL, what is supposed to be the third division of the U.S. soccer pyramid, and is in a relationship with the MLS. The USL has 31 teams now, which is quite a few. But roughly half of those are MLS second teams. So they're the LA Galaxy 2 or the FC Dallas 2. So I just think that's interesting. There's a lot to be discussed within that topic. We'll save that for a future segment, but I just wanted to get it off my chest, get it out of my heart. That's what I think. Those are my hot sports opinions.
All right. I respect that. And I also want to say that your last point about the USL and the number of teams in the league, one thing I saw when the schedule came out was a few people saying, it really highlights the size of the NASL, because Rayo OKC is playing a lot of the same teams. And to your point, if you take away the MLS 2 sides from the USL, their league is no bigger than the NASL. So, and me personally, I would much rather have a league of independent side than a league filled with junior varsity sides. Basically, is what they amount to. That you play every week, and then now aren't really true teams if you take anything that the United States Soccer Federation's ruling about division or however you want to say it, MLS2 sides playing in the U.S. Open Cup or not being able to. So, yeah, certainly some interesting thoughts there, William, and we really appreciate it. Good free talk segment. Hopefully a good second episode for those of you out there. As always, give us some feedback. Let us know how we're doing. If we got something wrong, let us know. If you think we're idiots, you can tell us that too, but we may not listen to you as much. You can find us on Twitter at Scissortail Pod. That's at SCISSORTAIL pod, P-O-D. Or you can email us at scissortailpod@gmail.com.
Boom. Thanks for listening.